Hey everyone, today I'm going to be doing the answers part to my questions and answers video. The questions part I did 4 weeks ago, and finally I'm going to do the answers. I had a total of 16 questions asked to me, 17 in a way because one question was asked twice, and I was asked some pretty interesting things. I'm going to split them into two main sections. Personal stuff and general sort of things are going to be the first lot, and then there's a small section of book related questions. So I thought I'd start with the one question that I can't answer as such, and that is, how old are you? This is a question that 2 different people asked me as well, and I don't like the idea of telling people my age because my birthday is already known, as in the day and the month. If I say my age, my date of birth will become known, and I'm quite wary of my date of birth being known online. That and my surname are 2 things that I don't want to be known whatsoever, if I can avoid it. Eventually it might be known, but for now, no. The second question is, where do you live in England? This is a nice easy one. I live in Birmingham, which is in the West Midlands region of the UK. If you look at a map of the UK, Birmingham is pretty much dead centre as far as north and south go. It's also pretty even between east and west coasts as well. My accent as well, relating to this, is what you call a Brummie accent. It's often considered fairly unintelligent. I don't know, I can't really comment on it myself because, well. The third question is, how do you spend your time other than reading? Well, other than the obvious answer of spending time with friends and family and going out with them and that kind of thing, which everybody would probably say, I am a big fan of music, and I've got quite a big music collection, which is actually behind the camera, which I will show in a separate video another day. I also like movies and going to the cinema. I've actually been to cinema over a dozen times this year at least, possibly even 2 dozen. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure. I do go quite a lot though. I actually went only a few days ago. I'll probably be going next week. I'll probably be going a few weeks after that. Every 2 weeks basically I'll probably go to cinema on average. The next question is oddly related to this, unintentionally, and that is, what are some of your favourite bands and or songs? This is a slightly tricky one because I never like saying favourites, but there is one band in particular that kind of stands out to me and I've always loved, and that is the Foo Fighters, whose frontman is well known, Dave Grohl. I love the Foo Fighters. I would love to see them in concert, which I've never done yet. Most of my big bands and artists that I like probably fall under the rock genre, but I do listen to almost every genre you could name. I've got classical music, I've got rap, I've got metal, but the only thing I don't have is any kind of boy bands and girl bands, the pop stuff basically. That is, no, that's not my kind of thing at all. I kind of hate that sort of music with a vengeance. The next question is, what is your favourite holiday? To me, there's only one holiday that has any meaning for me, and that is for a very simple reason, and that is Christmas. And that's only because at Christmas, it's the only time of year where you're more likely to see the majority, if not all, of your family and quite a few friends. So I like it for that reason. The friends part of it, I don't care about, frankly, but seeing family and friends is always good, and obviously seeing them all close together is really nice. The next question is, what is one place you need to go before you die? This is actually quite a tricky one initially. Actually, there's 3 places in particular that I want to visit more than others, and I'll tell you them in a more predictable, I suppose, order. The first being America, of course. Where in America I'm not strictly sure because it's massive, so there's more places in there. The second most predictable is Japan, Tokyo, Japan in particular. I've always thought Japan just looked awesome, frankly, and I would love to go there. And the third place might be unusual or surprising in some ways, in that it's actually Finland. I have several Finnish friends, and As a result, I've become quite familiar with Finnish culture and certain habits of Finnish people. So I want to go to the country because Finland looks beautiful, frankly. Well, no, it doesn't look beautiful. It is beautiful. I know that for a fact. The next question is a bit of a longer one. Are you a student or do you work? If not, what would you eventually like to do? Actually, the answer is fairly simple. My education is in computers, and that is what I do today. I'm the guy that when you need technical support for anything relating to computers, basically, that's me. The next question made me smile because it is, do you have any vices? And the vices being drugs, drink, cigarettes and chocolate. Chocolate is not exactly a traditional vice, but still. And for this, I have to say a particular view that I have first before I can give you the answer. And that is, as far as I'm concerned, there's only one thing in this world that each of us can say that we have for certain in our life. And that is up here, your mind, the human mind. It is the only thing that you have. And it's the only thing that is you. Everything you are is up here. You are your mind. Your mind is you. One and the same. So anything that interferes with your mind, I will not allow to happen to me personally, and I do not like. So drugs, I think, are frankly stupid, and you shouldn't do drugs as well, by the way. Nobody should, because I think it's really idiotic. Why do something that is going to screw with your mind and is got a good chance of killing you? I'm not suicidal, so no. Drink is, again, not an option. I have never had an alcoholic drink, ever, which I know is extremely surprising. I will not drink under any circumstances. I've made that decision at a young age, and I've always stayed with that. I won't drink because it messes with your mind, and therefore it's just completely not an option for me at all. I cannot drink under any circumstances. Cigarettes is slightly different in that my two granddads both were heavy smokers and they died unpleasant deaths from lung cancer. So I've got a very big incentive to not like cigarettes and indeed hate cigarette smoke in particular, so that's not an option. And chocolate, oddly enough, I don't really eat chocolate or particularly enjoy chocolate, really. Not for any of the same sort of dramatic reasons as the previous three, but it's just one of those odd things. The next question is somewhat related to this, and that is, what is your favourite candy? Well, as I said, I don't really eat chocolate particularly. I mean, I do occasionally eat a bit of chocolate. You know, if somebody offers me a bar of chocolate, I might have one, but generally not. But the only thing I do like, though, is toffee, oddly enough. I don't know why, but I've always had a thing for toffee. I very rarely eat it, though, because frankly, toffee is one of those things that is pretty tricky to actually find in shops. Everywhere has sweets and chocolate and that kind of thing. Toffee is harder to find, I think, in supermarkets and such, so it's something that I only eat very occasionally, but I do really like. And the last personal or general question is, do you floss every day? This made me smile compared to what the last question was, especially as it was asked by the same person. And the answer is, no, I don't. Flossing is something that my parents are unaware of, really, and they never did as children, or indeed do now. As a result, it's not something that I do, or indeed my sisters do, because it's just something that we didn't have any experience of at all. Now on to the book-related questions, the first of which is, do you have a method or system for sorting your bookshelves? Yeah, I do. Not a massive system, but it's a very simple one, and that is quite simply by genre, as you may have noticed occasionally on my shelf. I've got science fiction up there, fantasy over there, and then that goes down the shelves with kind of mixes of genres in between. I try to keep authors together on my shelf if they've got a big series or something. As a result, I can't do alphabetical most of the time. I do try to do alphabetical if there's a small selection of books by the same author, but generally it's just genre and subgenre of book, pretty much. The next question is, what is one book that always gets you out of a reading slump? And actually I don't have an answer for this because I honestly don't really ever have a reading slump as such. If I feel as though I've been reading really heavily and I might be on the verge of burning myself out from reading and indeed going on a reading slump, then I'll be aware of it and I'll sort of slow down with reading and I'll just be a bit more calmer, and I might do other things for a few weeks or a month, and then after that time I'll be okay again and then I can read as much as I want or as little as I want. So it's not something I really ever think about particularly. The next one is, who are some booktubers you'd recommend subscribing to? For this, I actually can't answer now because, coincidentally, not related to this question, next week and the week after I'm doing a 2-part video where I'm talking about booktubers. So basically your question will be answered in the next 2 weeks, and I'd recommend watching both parts because it should be quite interesting. The next question is, what is it about science fiction and fantasy books that you particularly like more than any other genre? Oddly enough, I can't answer this question for a similar reason as the previous question, because I'm actually doing a series of videos to do with genre and that kind of thing next month in August, and this question is directly being answered in one of those videos. So just wait until next month and it will be answered. Should be interesting actually. There's a number of videos as well which I'm quite excited to film. I should be filming them in the next week or two actually. And the last full-on bookish question is, what are your favourite Stephen King and China Miéville books? Well, my favourite China Miéville book, I would have to choose the very first China Miéville book that I read, only about 3 years ago now, maybe 4, and that is Perdido Street Station. Great big thing, it's actually probably the biggest of these I own, one of the biggest I think is wrote as well, and I love this book. It is a steampunk novel, I think you class it as, and it is frankly amazing. The ideas in it are mad, frankly, but brilliant, and the writing is not the easiest to get into, especially as this was my first China Miéville book I ever read, but absolutely brilliant. And as you may know, and obviously hence why you asked me the question, I love China Miéville, and I'd recommend this book to everybody because it's genius, frankly. As far as Stephen King goes, I haven't got a particular favourite, but I have read more of his short stories than his full-length novels. So I'm going to choose one of his short story collections that I don't think gets very much attention on BookTube, and that is the Bachman books, which is when Stephen King wrote under the pseudonym of Richard Bachman. This edition is an older edition which contains 4 of them. There is a more modern version which contains only 3 of these stories, and I love this book. All 4 of the stories in it, which are Rage, The Long Walk, Roadwork and The Running Man, are brilliant. The Running Man, by the way, is indeed what the Arnold Schwarzenegger film from the 80s is based on. The book is massively better than the film. The film I didn't like actually. The book of The Running Man is brilliant, and so are the other 3 stories, especially The Long Walk. The Long Walk is amazing as well. The only other question is one that I'm not entirely sure whether you class it as a book related question or not, and that is, are you a robot sent from the future to teach us the ways of sci-fi classics in order to save mankind? Well, I did just watch the new Terminator film, the 5th one, Terminator Genesis, the other day, which is oddly coincidental, but no, I'm not a Terminator or any kind of cyborg or future saviour in any way whatsoever. By the way, the new Terminator Genesis is the 3rd best Terminator film in my personal opinion. The 1st and 2nd are better than the new one. I think reading science fiction classics, or classics in any genre, whether it be fantasy or whatever else, is important because you get to know what the origins of that genre was like and how it kind of evolved from the older books to the current. And with that said, that's pretty much it for this video. So if you have any other questions, feel free to ask them, not just on this video but in any video. You can always ask me questions, and if it's something I'm actually able to answer, I'll answer it anyway. And that's it for this video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.